What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Buffalo Commander. I am your host, Alex. Please like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on your way in. This will be Mock Draft 2.0 with trades today. We're going to use the PFN mock draft machine. Just to kind of give a little bit of a breakdown, these draft machines have weird trade functionality. The trades are always kind of a little bit off the wall as far as how much it takes to get through things. So I'll probably lay out the amount, the draft capital it'll cost, or players, whatever's involved, and what I think it is. And then the mock draft machine, I'll have to put in something else. So just before you get in the comments and say that's going to be less or more than what I'm asking for, it's not. I'm going to verbally tell you what it is when we get to that point. Want to go right into it. So first pick here, it's obvious at this point. I believe Caleb Williams is going to be the first pick in the draft. Justin Fields was traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers for a 6th-round pick. The writing's on the wall. He's going to be the choice here. Next is Washington. I do believe that there's a decision here, but I think Drake May has overtaken Jaden Daniels for the most part in this position for the time being until the pro day happens. I think they want to see more of Jaden in the draft process, and they haven't yet, and that's why Drake may be having a little bit more of a stronghold. So it'll be Drake May at 2. 3 is going to be Jaden Daniels for me. How often do you pick in the top 3 is the question, and not very often for New England. I believe that they want to go ahead and get their guy, start the rebuild now. They could use wide receiver help, but they can get that in round 2. But, and you could argue wide receiver is a bigger need than quarterback at this point because they do have Jacoby Brissett. But I do believe they go ahead and get their guy and let him sit for a year behind Jacoby while he gets ready, maybe even to add some weight. Who knows? All right, so next, this is the first spot that people are starting to talk about trades a little bit. I don't think they give up the opportunity. They have one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the league. They gave up recently Hollywood Brown to the Chiefs, they let him walk, and then he signed with the Chiefs. But they've lost him. They have really nothing left in that room. They really need to stock, and I just think that Marvin Harrison Jr. is too big of a deal to allow him to go away by trading back in the draft and getting a pick number 11 and 23 from the Vikings. So I do believe that this spot here is going to be a choice, a pick. And then the first trade up potential could be the Chargers here. They have needs at wide receiver, tight end, right tackle, defensive tackle, linebacker, corner. They've got a ton of needs. I think it's going to be between the Giants and the Vikings or who trades up here. They both have lots of needs also, but both of them have been pretty obvious about their need for a quarterback. I do think that the Giants now with Drew Lock maybe take a step back from that and stay in position and then worry about quarterback next year. I think there was some rumors that Daniel Jones could get cut after post June 1. I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to compete with Drew and they're going to see what they have there. And then probably Drew Lock will win it because he's better than Daniel Jones. And then we'll see where we go from that point. They'll fix it in 2025. So I do believe that this pick is probably a spot to trade up. So I'm going to go ahead and do it because I think that the Vikings would have to jump the Giants, or at least that would be the prospects of it. So let's go in here real quick and look at what it would take. And in order to manipulate this, I'm going to make the Chargers trade with them. So it requires less to get the position or get the pick. That's typically what I've seen with this more often than not. So we're going to go Minnesota here. Confirm that. We're looking at probably pick 5 for 11 and 23. But in the end, I think it's going to cost more than this. But I think this is what it's going to have to do to get it done. I do believe that they're probably going to throw in another 4th. Potentially a 5th, maybe a next year 3rd, just one extra pick. But I do believe that that's the case, or maybe a swap of picks of some sort. But I think this might be enough. Nope, it was not enough to get it done. So let's try that one more time. We're going to do Chargers to the – actually, let's flip it because I think that might be the problem. I went the wrong way in reverse here. So let's go back to the Vikings to trade with the Chargers. Let's confirm it. We're going to give them 11. We're going to give them way more to trigger the machine here because I think it'll cost at least 11 and 23. We're not doing more than one round. So that'll be the case. And it was accepted. I had to throw way more at it. Okay. So the rumor is that the Vikings are like JJ McCarthy. They went to his workout And I do believe that he is their primary target here. They value him more than Penix and Nick. So we're going to go there. All right, next, the Giants. So the Giants have quite a few needs, like we said. Quarterback is one of them. I don't believe they go there in this case. They do need lots of weaponry. They also need defensive end, probably to help out with Thibodeau. Corner is a need. I'd call free safety a need in this case too. But Brock Bowers or Malik Neighbors here, I think, is the pull. I do believe that wide receiver is just a more valuable position. So I believe that Malik Neighbors goes here in this spot. So next, it's going to be the Titans. Going to move up here. So it's no secret that the Titans need a tackle. Nicholas Petit-Frere is the left tackle, and Dylan Rodunze is the right tackle, and both can be upgraded on, in my opinion. This could be a trade-up spot also for the Broncos and Raiders. May be worth it, but I do believe that the other two quarterbacks aren't quarterbacks that people are going to trade up for. So I think we're going to sit tight here, and then we're just going to take the best player available on the board. And I do believe at this point that's going to be Joe Alt to lock down their left tackle position going forward. Maybe you move Petit-Frere to right tackle or guard, or you keep Odunze and move him in. It could be a multitude of different options there that we could go with. So next is the Falcons. So the Falcons have needs at tackle, defensive end, linebacker. I think they could use another corner, to be quite honest with you. However, I feel like this is a spot where the tackle is probably the best move to provide more protection for Kirk Cousins because his lack of mobility. And then they can have basically their pick of the litter here. From what I've seen, Olu Fashanu is how you pronounce it, has fallen a little bit, and Talisi Fuaga has moved up a little. So I'm going to go Fuaga here and make him the second tackle off the board. And these often happen in runs also. So you'll see a tackle go and then another tackle because people start getting a little frantic with their picks. So next pick, Chicago. This is another spot where somebody hypothetically could move up in the draft. I don't think that's probably the move here I think that the Bears just want to get as many good players as possible at the highest level position. So we got our quarterback, Caleb Williams. I do think we need more protection. We could also use some more edge help with Sweat on the other side. So there is the possibility of going edge there too. So I'm seeing Dallas Turner, Lietu Latu, who's had a great offseason. And then offensive tackles, we're at Olufashanu. I hate to put three tackles in a row, but it's not what it's all about. I think Fashanu is probably the next best player. I think he's just a little bit more valuable than Latu, especially when you're trying to protect a new quarterback. So we're going to go Olu here. Next. So the Jets are interesting. They went and filled like almost all of their needs in free agency so far. So they've got Mike Williams as a new receiver. They've gotten their tackle position taken care of completely with Tyron Smith and then Morgan Moses. And both of those guys are good bookend tackles, but Smith, for one, has big time injury issues. However, I think they're going to bank on that, and then they're going all in this year. And if they get hurt, somebody gets hurt again, or they get a bunch of injuries again, because they're obviously okay with it with Mike Williams, I do believe that they're just going to roll the dice on it and go from there. So I do see them getting a tackle later in the draft, but I do think at this juncture, they're going to take best player available and get another weapon here, and Brock Bowers is going to be the pick. I think he's a good fit. I think they can upgrade the position for themselves there. And I do believe that he is probably the best player available left on the board at this point. So, all right, next, we had the Chargers move out of their original position. They're probably kicking themselves right now with Brock Bowers being gone, because I do believe they really would think they could use him. But they have a huge receiver need. They lost both of their number one receivers. Rome Odunze projects very well to Keenan Allen, but with more speed and athleticism. So I'm going to go Rome Odunze here. They have a huge receiver need. They can't go in there with Quentin Johnston week one being your wide receiver one. I just don't think that's going to work out for them in the long run. All right, next. So we had the Broncos here. They just let the other two quarterbacks fall into their lap. And I think that'll be the case. I don't think anybody's moving up for Nix or Penix. They could use another corner outside of Samuel. I don't think that they do have a tackle need and a defensive end need too. But I really believe that the Broncos are in a position now where their fan base is pretty upset with the decisions they've made to this point, and they need a shot of life. And the best way to do that is to go get a quarterback. I think that Bo Nix is a better fit, but I do believe that the fans will like Michael Penix Jr. better. So there's just a question of that. I would say that I'd be worried about Michael Penix's frame and that weather, but I think he'll be fine. He played in Washington for 2 years, played in Indiana for 3. So I think he'll be okay in that respect. And I do think his upside's a little more than Bo Nix. I'm going to take Michael Penix Jr. here and just call it a day. Raiders, another team that could potentially use a quarterback. I think they brought in Minshew to compete and give Aiden O'Connell one more chance to battle it out and see if Aiden can prove that he is a franchise level quarterback, which he's not. But I think they're going to do that in the time being. I think they're just going to punt on that position until next year. However, they could also use upgrades at corner with Jack Jones and Nate Hobbs out there in their cornerback boundary corners. And they're just, neither one of them are all that great. I mean, you could argue Jack Jones is pretty good, but we're talking about just athletes playing the position. And you have a pick right now of being able to take the best corner on the board, I believe. And I do believe that's the choice. So we're going to go with, I think Quinyon Mitchell's done enough to leapfrog Terrion Arnold at this point. And he played in a little bit worse competition, but his athleticism is much better than Terrion Arnold, although he's a little less physical, I would say, than Terrion. But he's got great size, great speed, all of that. And he'd be a great pick for them at pick 13. So next, the Saints. I think you could upgrade at tackle here with Penning. Edge seems like the better play, though, given the value, because we still have the best edge rushers on the board. So I'm going to go Leitu Latu. He's had a really good offseason. I do believe he is a player that projects well to this level. He has high-level production. The only question with him is probably length. I thought he tested better than I thought he would at the combine too. So I think that I think that he's gonna leapfrog Dallas Turner and Jared Verse, who have their own issues, so to speak, with age, injury issues, things like that. So, all right, next we're gonna go with the Colts here, and they have needs at left tackle, tight end, linebacker, I think corner. I think the obvious need here is corner. Juju Brents and Kenny Moore just aren't high-level corners, aren't starting caliber corners, in my opinion. At best, CB2 level corners. I don't think that they're worth sticking with. And I think the obvious pick here is going to be Terrion Arnold to fill in that spot for them going forward. Next, Seahawks. D tackle, corner, right tackle. I don't know. There's not like a huge need at D tackle, but I do believe they're kind of aging out there. And that could be, a sneaky need with Murphy still on the board. I do believe this is also a spot where we could see someone like Buffalo move up here and get a wide receiver if they're willing to give up maybe a next year first. Because I do believe it'll take that. It'll either take this year's first and second, or this year's first and next year's first, or maybe this year's first and fourth, and then another second next year potentially. I think that's too rich, especially for Buffalo. I do believe they're struggling to even accumulate high picks because they lost out on a 3rd round pick compensatory selection. So I do think that they are going to be someone who wants to maintain their high level picks, and it would cost too much, I believe, to get this high at this juncture. So, okay. With that said, it seems like they're out on Reek Woolen for some reason. He had a good rookie year, and last year they seem to be kind of iffy about him for some reason. I don't know if he's in the doghouse or what. I also think, like I said, a potential youth movement and defensive tackle here. Because of the value, I do think Byron Murphy is maybe a better pick here than a Kool-Aid or a Nate Wiggins at this point. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and go Byron Murphy and just give them a nice 3 tech to complement the other 2 guys they have there, and then move forward. And then he can fill in full time. They rotate a lot on their defensive line anyway, so it won't be that huge of a situation as far as him coming in and being an impactful player as a depth or reserve kind of position. So, all right, next, Jags. So wide receiver for them is weird. They lost Calvin Ridley, but they're not in dire straits back there. Zay Jones is a competent 3. Christian Kirk is a competent, I think a high-end slot receiver. And Gabe Davis is a competent wide receiver 3 or wide receiver 4, but if he gets more playing time, like he's a guy who needs a lot of reps. And he doesn't get a ton of targets, but he does serve a purpose with downfield threat. So he does complement the other 2 well, who are more underneath receivers, and Kirk with more of the yards after catch function with him. So what I'm thinking here is I thought about skipping out on wide receiver at this point, but pickings are getting slim. They spent a lot of money on Eric Armstead recently. I don't see them going after T. Higgins. So CB2 is another cornerback, is going to be another weakness for them. And let's see who's available there. Nate Wiggins is on the board, Kool-Aid McKinstry, but you could have Brian Thomas Jr. at wide receiver. I'm just going to go Brian Thomas Jr. no matter how much it hurts my heart to lose him to a rival, an AFC rival. But I really love him in Buffalo, but I don't think he gets there, and I don't think Buffalo has the capital to move up. So I'm giving him to the Jags. Bengals, tackle, wide receiver. I know they just got Trent Brown, but he is aging. He's humongous. He's going to wear down shortly, in my opinion. I don't think he has many years left in this league. So they could prep for the future there. Or you could get one of these tweener guard tackle types in the draft that potentially could fill in at guard while they wait to fill in at right tackle or left tackle eventually if Orlando Brown ends up moving on. So there is options here with Graham Barton. There is options here with Troy Fontenot. Troy Fontenot is a perfect hybrid guard tackle. Everybody thought his arms were going to be short, and his arms came in really good, over 34 inches at the combine. That was their main concern with him, and he played tackle in college. I do think he still has guard tackle flex, but he is an option there potentially. They could go wide receiver. I just don't know. I think that they're happy with Losivas that they got last year. They've made mention of that and he's a similar type of player with more speed to T. Higgins, and like he's a bigger bodied, longer player. So I think they stick with him, and then we go Troy Fontenot here, who can play in a guard until he gets to a point where he can flex out to tackle when other guys kind of age out or leave, just generally speaking. So, all right, next, Rams. Tackle, defensive end, linebacker, corner. I think best player available needs to be the need here. They have really big needs at, in my opinion, left tackle, defensive end, and corner. Defensive end and corner especially. But Alaric Jackson at left tackle, he can be upgraded. And I'm not going to even go into edge rusher and corner. It's too much. They have bigger needs at edge and corner for sure in this case. So I'm going to go look at edge. We still have Dallas Turner and Jared Verse here. I'm going Jared Verse. I think he's a better player than Dallas Turner overall. I know Dallas was rated higher than him originally. I do believe that Jared is just a more well-rounded guy. He is an older prospect, but I think they just need juice on the edge right now, and he's perfect for that. All right, next, Steelers. Wide receiver, tackle, corner needs I have here. They had an addition for at safety at Elliott, and then Justin Fields at quarterback and Queen at linebacker. So those aren't immediate needs anymore. I do believe they were on my list beforehand, but they're not anymore, generally speaking. Wide receiver is an option, but they've been waiting for a tackle in Pittsburgh for a really long time, a functional offensive line to protect your new quarterbacks and potential future quarterback if it doesn't work out with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson here. So I do believe Amarius Mims would be a great, let him learn on the job, superstar athlete. He has some work to do with his fundamentals, but he is a guy who projects out really well as a left tackle. And I do believe that he could fill that need. And ultimately, I just don't think that Dan Moore. I don't think he could be worse than Dan Moore. I think I shouldn't say that. Dan Moore's not awful. Dan Moore's a functional replacement level left tackle who can stand in there and block and be functional. But I think Amarius Mims comes right in and is better than him right off the bat because it's not a huge hill to climb. So I'm going to Amarius Mims here. All right, next, Dolphins. Dolphins changed their needs a little bit based on what they've done in the offseason. So it's too early for a linebacker. I do believe they need that. They signed Jordan. Who is it? Signed Jordan and from Seattle and Walker, I believe, from is it Green Bay or something like that. I can't remember where they're both from, but they're both more name recognition, in my opinion, than they are actually good players. Jordan Brooks, sorry, is the name. He's going to be starting next to Long, and Brooks is not great in coverage. We're talking about a bunch of guys who are thumpers, who can tackle line of scrimmage, who aren't great in space as far as coverage goes. Although Brooks should be, but he's not. He doesn't grade out well that way. So, but I don't think they make a move at linebacker because of that. I think they feel better about that than others do. And then they signed Brewer at center, who's one of the worst pass blocking centers in the NFL. But I don't see like they paid money for him. I don't think that they're going to let him not be the starter. He's been a starter his whole time in Tennessee. So guard now becomes the biggest question mark with Robert Hunt being leaving for Carolina, signed a big $20 million deal. So that's there. Also, defensive end still a need here because Chubb and Phillips aren't going to be ready for the start of the season. I don't think they could be, but they will not be 100%, or they will be at least still working back as they play. So they'll be on a snap count of some sort. So that's a possibility there with Dallas Turner still on the board. So to me, it's either edge or guard. The top guards on the board, but taking a guard this high is just questionable business. And center with Jackson Powers Johnson, he'd been a great pick for them, I do believe, if they had not gone and gotten a center. And I don't think he can play guard, but I don't think that's probably the best move for them. So I'm going to go edge here to give them some juice while they wait for the others to come back, and then fill in the guard position a little bit later, along with another reserve linebacker going forward. So next is the Eagles. This spot could be a trade-up position for a team like Kansas City, team like Buffalo, who want to jump in front of Dallas, who may have intentions for a wide receiver. But Buffalo and Dallas Buffalo and Kansas City both got wide receivers in free agency with Curtis Samuel for Buffalo and Hollywood Brown for the Chiefs. So I don't think that's the play for them. I think they're going to sit tight with it because they don't feel quite as desperate anymore. So this is a spot where I think they're going to just chill on it for a bit. We'll have Eagles still making their selection. And the two spots are corner and center for me. Obviously, Kelsey left, and corner, they're getting really old with Bradbury and Slay. So I do believe that I do think that they go there at this point because they need to get younger at a minimum. They can learn from two really, really good players and kind of prep themselves and get ready for the NFL game a little bit while getting spot work. Just think that's the best move. And then they just roll the dice, maybe get a center a little bit later in the draft. And then that they kind of call it a day. So I'm going Nate Wiggins. He tested really, really well at the combine. And I think that he's got great technique. He's just a little slight. So his size, they can improve that potentially, but I do believe that would be that's a huge upgrade for them going forward in the future. And he can take his time while he comes back just generally. So, oops, I hit the wrong button there. Okay. So Chargers, we had the Chargers. What do we have them with first? They got Rome Odunze to start off the draft. So now they're picking in the other pick they traded for. So Chargers, we are looking at, we had wide receiver that was already filled, and they still I think they need right tackle help. Tight end, way too early for tight end too at this point. They could use corner help, linebacker help. I'm going to look at corner again and go with Kool-Aid McKinstry. Buffalo played them last year, and one of the things I noticed was the lack of speed on the back end. Gabe Davis torched them, and that tells you something about the way that their just the way that they were built. They were built to be physical, but as soon as you got behind them, it was over. So that's kind of how I feel about that. They need to get better in that position just generally, and then they can kind of take strides forward. A double dip at wide receiver would not have been out of the question here, but I do think that they want to spread these needs out just a little bit. Maybe they double dip at wide receiver a little bit later. I do believe that's the spot too where you could see another maybe leapfrog up, but it's still for Buffalo or Kansas City to get up to 23 in that case. We're still looking at a third round value plus maybe a sixth or fifth to get up to that point. So we're outside like that 5-pick jump at this point. So that's kind of where we are. And I just think it'd be too much for them to do, especially given the way their rosters are constructed and how they might want to keep their picks. So next is Dallas. Guard, safety, and I think wide receiver is a sneaky need here. But I do think safety is the likely pick in this point. So they need to improve in that spot. And Cooper DeJean's still here. I think he's the only safety in this draft that's worth a first-round pick potentially. And he's not even a full-time safety. They also could – Bland is a good corner as far as like making beats on the ball and like get interceptions and things like that. But he gets beat a lot. Cooper DeJean can play outside corner. He can play slot too. So we could be seeing a situation where Cooper could come in, play safety to start off, and he can move if he ends up impressing. So I think he's going to be the pick in this point. All right, Green Bay. So Green Bay filled a couple of their needs that were the ones glaring the most, and that's signing McKinney to play safety. And I do think it's still, like I said, they could use a linebacker. I think it's a little early for that. I guess they could take corner, but I think they're okay with Jair Alexander and their depth, generally speaking. So I'm going to go tackle here. I think this is the last potential fit for a tackle. They just lost Bakhtiari. J.C. Latham's still on the board, and Tyler Guyton. I'm not hearing great things about J.C. Latham. I do believe that Tyler Guyton is a great athlete. He can play left tackle, and I think he's just more ready to do it. A lot of people are talking about J.C. Latham, despite his size, playing guard. So I don't know why that is. I haven't done enough research on Latham, honestly, just to be quite honest with you. I haven't done that much work on him. So I'm getting to that point where I'm getting deeper into the tackles. But with J.C. Latham, I'm just not. I feel like he's falling down boards. I could see him drop into the second round based on the way I'm hearing people talk about him. So Tyler Guyton's the pick here. All right, Bucs. So as Buffalo did in 2018, I think they move into this spot fearing that Kansas City is going to move up. So I'm going to go ahead. These wide receivers have dropped long enough, I think. And I do believe that we're going to get into a phase here where we're going to want to get antsy. We're going to get antsy and we're going to want to move up and take somebody. So we're going to trade with the Bucs. Non-conference trades are much easier typically. Bean's famous for moving up 2 spots, 1 spot, 3 spots kind of deal. So we're going to give up 28 for 26. And then we're also going to give up that third round pick you're seeing there is actually a 4th. I don't know why they have. I'm sorry. I'm looking to the right. That is a 4th round pick for 128 or 133. I'm going to give up 128 because it makes sense. And I do believe that's all it will cost us is that one late 4th round pick to get there. Now, I'm going to throw in a 3rd next year just because I want to trick the machine because I know it's going to take it. So that's what I'm going to do. So there we go. 1st and a 4th to move up. And now we're going to pick. We've got our pick of the litter on wide receiver 5, who we think is next in line. So I have a couple theories here on what they may want to do. We've got A.D. Mitchell, who is a perfect fit for what we need on the outside. However, he has some issues with effort from what's being said right now. So that might be a problem for us as far as our, I guess, projection for him and being a culture fit. He also was his answers on the podium are really weird at the combine. He had made mention of not going hard on his routes all the time and having some energy left in the end of the game. So I guess conditioning is a fair question too. And then he also was asked if he can name an up and coming receiver on Texas, and he couldn't name one. And then when the reporter pressed him on it, he basically just turned his head and said, next question. Like in the reporter kind of got, crappy with him afterwards, but still, like, he couldn't name one person. It's like he didn't come prepared or something. I wonder how he did in interviews because of that. I'm projecting here, but I do believe that that's a possibility. I don't think Xavier Worthy is what they're looking for. Ladd McConkey is one that I really like. I just don't love him as a projected outside X receiver once Diggs leaves. And I really think we're looking for that next guy who can kind of learn on the job, but also fill in at the Z and the X going forward now as a depth player behind Curtis Samuel and in certain packages, a la Gabe Davis in his rookie year, kind of that wide receiver 4 until he's ready. And I think we're built that way now. So what I'm going to do is go crazy here. I know he's ranked low on this list, but I do believe Xavier Leggett with his 4.39 40 and 6'1.5" and 221 frame is going to be in play here as a guy who needs a little bit of development with his route running, especially at the stem. And then also with his just the way he moves, he rounds off his routes a little bit, and just the I think it's going to take a little bit for him to get used to the game. So we'll have him as like this high-end athlete wide receiver to start, and then he'll mold into the Diggs role and be the X receiver next to Samuel and Khalil Shakir, probably in 2025, and just can kind of learn on the job in the meantime. I think he's going to be the type of player and type of character player they're looking for. And like I said, players like Worthy, I think he's just a one-trick pony. I think he's a really good route runner, but I just don't see him ever being an X receiver. Ladd McConkey, great route runner, great everything. He's just size and length are a problem when you're playing on the outside full-time in the NFL. He's not going to be great at the catch point. He's not physical enough. So I think they're going to surprise some people here and go Xavier Leggett, I should say. All right, Cardinals. They chose Marvin Harrison Jr. to start. They do have other needs, lots of them. One's at center, one's a defensive end, linebacker, corner. So corners are picked over a little bit. I'm gonna breathe on that a little. And I think the best center here. Well, let me check corners one more time. Yeah, I'm not going with those guys. I'm gonna go ahead and take Jackson Powers Johnson. He is by far the best center in this draft. Size, athleticism, agility, technically refined as a player. And he's got 22nd ranked on this board. I kind of agree with that, but he's at a lower valued position. So I'm going to put him in there for the new center for Kyler Murray going forward. All right. Now we're at the Bucs, who traded with us. And we are looking at defensive end and corner. I think are the two biggest needs. They've shored up their receiver room. I don't think there's a problem there. Their offensive line's pretty solid. I do just think they need another guy in the defensive end side of things, in the defensive end room or the edge room or whatever you want to call it. And Chop Robinson's available, but I'm leaning more to, I'm going to Darius Robinson. He's more versatile. He can move up and down the line. He started tackle, and then he switched out to edge last year, I believe. And just his functional movement skills and things like that, they can move Joe Tryon into the edge spot as he kicks over. He can kick back out, and Tryon can back out. Things like that, just as an example. And he's just a versatile piece, and he's a high-end athlete for a guy his size. And just think he's going to be good. He can even play 3-tech and maybe even 1-tech occasionally, but he's going to be kind of a guy they can move all over the place. All right. So Lions are up next. Wide receiver and corner are my top two needs. I think corner is the most desperate need they have. Safety seems fine with Branch signing with the Branch draft pick last year. So I'm going to kick over to, I'm trying to think here. Let's see who corners are left. We have TJ Tampa, who's shot up boards for whatever reason. Enos Rakestraw, who tested awful at the combine. Don't love that either. Let's see what wide receivers are there. I do believe, so I don't know ultimately if they're happy with Jameson Williams and their investment in him a couple years ago. He just seems to be just a clunky route runner. He's all speed, no gas. All gas, no brakes. And he's just kind of unrefined. I don't know if he's ever going to be a really impactful player. I just think he started his career so slowly just for lots of reasons. PED suspensions and gambling suspensions, everything else. So he's maybe not exactly what they're, ultimately gonna be happy with long term. And they could use another outside wide receiver. I think there's just too many receivers here not to take one over the corners of it. Let me go back and look. Tampa, Lassiter, Rakestraw. Yeah, I'm going to go receiver here and do a surprise. I think that's just going to be, I think they're going to give themselves another weapon. Amon-Ra St. Brown's better in the slot and just need an outside guy. So let's do that. They don't need Worthy because Worthy's is a better route running version of Jameson Williams and even a small and even skinnier package. So they don't have anyone where like Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman's going to be a very specific place he needs to go. And whoever needs a boundary post-up wide receiver is going to be the one to take a guy like him. He has a value in the NFL for sure. He is, other than this top-end speed, he's really good. I like him in a lot of ways better than A.D. Mitchell as far as just him being plugged in and not really – and just being who he is versus I think A.D. has higher bust potential just because of effort and attitude. So next is the Ravens. So the Ravens lost quite a bit on their offensive line. They lost both starting guards. Ronnie Stanley at tackle is always hurt. Wide receiver is a need because OBJ is gone. So the options here are someone like Graham Barton, who'd be perfect. Latham, I wouldn't go there, or wide receiver. And I think A.D. Mitchell's a lot like Rashad Bateman as a player. Just physical makeup, the way he plays, the way he wins. So I don't think that that's probably the play here. And I do think that some of these guys slip further than you think with the wide receiver group. I think everybody loves them, but people are going to wait on them a little bit thinking that the depth is really good. I'm going to go Graham Barton. I just think the glaring need at guard that they just lost is going to be too much to pass up on. And that's just, I think that's just the way it's going to end up falling for them. And it's going to, they're probably not going to be the fans aren't going to be super happy about that pick because it's boring. But I do think that at the end of the day, that's their best move, generally speaking. So Niners are up next. Guard, linebacker, corner of my different position groups that I liked for them. An upgrade's is needed at guard, where they have John Feliciano starting. Corner is the other one. I just think that they're pretty average at corner. They could take an improvement. I think TJ Tampa actually is a really good fit for their scheme. And then guard, they're kind of picked over. I don't know if it's a little early for Haynes and BB and all these other, I just think it's too early for those. I don't think it's a great guard draft, generally speaking. So let's go with a corner. And we'll go TJ Tampa and kind of round out. He's very similar to some of the other corners they have, but I think he's got a little bit more upside. All right, last pick. The world champion or the Super Bowl champion, Kansas City Chiefs. They got Hollywood Brown. So their wide receiver need's not quite as dire. Corner is a big need because Snead's probably getting traded. But I don't like the corners here. I don't think that I think they can wait a little bit on that and fill that need. And Snead could stay. So, we might find out more. It went from 1 week being Snead's going to get traded. The next week was like, we can't find any trade partners. And then 2 days later, they were going to trade him again to, was it the Colts or I forget who it was. So there's like 2 teams interested all of a sudden. So that could go back and forth forever. Another sneaky need is edge. I think they need another guy on the edge to get pressure. I don't think that they get enough on that end. They get a lot of middle penetration with Chris Jones, but I just think that they need another guy who can play out there. They're a team stacked full of defensive end 2s and defensive end 3s, similar to Buffalo minus Von Miller, but he's old now and he's probably more like a defensive end 2 or 3 himself. But they're just stacked with those types of dudes. And I don't think they have enough out there. So what I'm going to do is give him Chop Robinson as a high-end athlete player. He needs a lot of work with his refinement in his pass rush package and the way that he gets to the quarterback. He is all athlete at this point and really very little like technically refined player. He's just not that guy yet. So he's going to have to learn a little bit on the job, but he's going to instantly give like juice on the edge and provide pressure for them. And I think that's pretty essential to what they need to do in order to take a little bit of the pressure off of Chris Jones getting double teamed and things like that. He could effectively trick the offensive lines that they're playing against, even if he's actually not going to get home, into paying more attention out on the edge, which frees up Chris Jones more often. So here it is. I have the final picks on the screen right now. We ended up having 2 trades in the first round. One of them garnered 2 picks. The Minnesota Vikings moved up for J.J. McCarthy, where the Chargers moved down and got Rome Odunze and Kool-Aid McKinstry. Buffalo moves up, gets Xavier Legette. I know that sounds crazy. I do believe that he's going to be a player that they are very high on at the end of the day. And I think that that's kind of how everything will, whoops, I went to Twitter by accident there, how it's all going to play out. I'll do a mock draft 3.0 once more free agency goes by. And once as it gets closer to the draft, I'll probably do one every week. So just to kind of keep everyone informed of kind of what we're seeing. I stay on top of this pretty good. So I keep up with like who's going where and how teams, the needs change on each individual team, and trying to apply that to my mock drafts. And I know I'm not perfect, but I do see a lot of the mock drafts out there who end up putting people like matches with teams that just don't make sense because of the players they brought in. And I know that they don't keep track. They should keep track because it's their job, but people on TV, a lot of times, they don't keep track of your individual teams and their needs that they filled in free agency, and how what their mindset is going forward, and how they view certain players to step in and be starters on their team that may look like backups to others. For instance, Trey White going somewhere for Buffalo. I had people like, I saw a mock draft with Mel Kiper saying we need a corner now. And I'm like, dude, we have Christian Benford is our CB1. He is really good. He's not a Pro Bowl level. He might be a Pro Bowl level player. I don't know. He was great in coverage. He makes very few mistakes. He's very physical. He's a better athlete than people give credit for. And then we have Rasul Douglas on the other side, who's a very good cornerback in his own right, who played great last year. And then Kyrie Elam's a first round pick from a few years ago. I know he's a bust, but the bust is he's not a CB1. Not that he's a CB3 potentially. As a CB3, he's probably okay, you know? So I just think that the people jump the gun when they hear names leave, and then they automatically assume that that team needs that position filled already. Another example was like with Connor McGovern kicking over to center. He was our left guard last year. He's played center in the past with Dallas in spot work, but he's played full games at center. So he's not like he's foreign to it altogether. But you might see Mitch Morris leave and say, we need a center. Well, we don't. We probably need depth at guard, but that's not a super high priority to even get that in the middle of the draft. So anyhow, thanks everybody for listening today. Please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell. We do really appreciate those who have subscribed to this point. We're looking for more. Obviously, we're going to continue to do this. We're not going to be a channel that just starts up a channel and then forgets about it a month later. We're going to do this because we enjoy it, and we're going to continue to do it because of that reason, whether we have subscribers or likes or a certain amount of views or not. Although our views have been pretty, I actually am impressed with the views that we have in comparison to other channels. But we are going to continue to do this because we enjoy the NFL and football and talking about football and doing cool videos about mock drafts. And we're going to do a quarterback ranking next week with the quarterback quiz machine, which is going to be interesting, fun. We're going to do a live stream of the actual 2024 NFL draft in 5 weeks. So we enjoy this regardless of what happens. So please subscribe, and we'll continue to put out content. So we're not going to just go away like a lot of these smaller channels do. We're looking to grow the channel, but if it doesn't grow exponentially or anything, we'll just keep doing it because it's fun. So anyway, I appreciate everybody coming out. Please like, share, subscribe, and I will see